section, which starts on page 25, and kind of bat around not the underlying. What's that? Yeah, but not the underlying requirement that the board undertake rulemaking and that we have that date or one later maybe set. So it would just be how prescriptive or definitive in that list, and Warren flagged one, and I think I flagged one already, and so why don't we start with that? I have an issue with requiring infrasound, because nobody's denying that wind turbines create infrasound, but there has been no scientific connection to infrasound and health. It may annoy the hell out of people, but that's not the health connection. And I guess we've learned that the largest emitter of infrasound is the ocean, and lots of other things emit infrasound without. So anyway, I have a problem with that requirement.
But we had testimony and people say we hear and feel the turbines. So obviously they seem to be perceiving something, and maybe to say at the end of the day the rules might say, well, it's really not a factor, but I don't know that why we would want to automatically exclude the consideration of it. I mean, we're just asking them to consider certain things. We're not really telling them.
I don't think it stops them from considering it, especially in rulemaking, where folks can bring to the table anything you want to take.
Right, so why would you
Well,
want to
because
skip
I read this as that this says there is a health issue. I argue that, okay?
It's just as defining.
Well, but the inference, if you're listing it in the requirements, audible sound, fine, no argument.
There does seem to be supportive evidence out there globally. Now, don't say to me, point me to a particular study. You can't answer you on this topic. So there are
You
studies
learned my
that-
game?
What?
You learned my game?
You're a good teacher.
Steve Ambrose.
So I would rather be on the conservative side of this going forward. This doesn't have anything to do with what's now, but at least that they seriously consider.
But there are, and I can, and don't ask me which ones, but I can also show you as many studies on the other side of the coin that say it's not health related. Does it annoy some people? Absolutely. Lots of things annoy different people and not other people.
Why don't we, it just says that they should bring about rules regarding sound. Why don't we just take out 1 and 2 and just leave it at that? They can do their work.
That's true.
Because the other ones just talk about audible sound, so it's ruling out infrasound.
It's not ruling it out, because in rulemaking, anybody can bring
Right,
to
so
the table.
why not just leave it in then?
I don't
That's my
see why a
point.
definition is.
Because in statute, when you acknowledge something, all right, when you put it there, you are telling them that it is an issue, okay? Even if the words say may and don't have to, if the words are written in the statute, they have to, in their minds, deal with it on some level.
On page 27E,
I mean, that's what I'm looking at, when we talk about the definition, or we talk about where they're asked to provide methodology for measuring infrasound levels, which I think is a lot to ask the public service board. We don't have any testimony about how you would measure those and what options the public service board has to choose from.
Oh,
I mean, I'd like to set them up to be able to present good work that matches the content of what we want and what's achievable.
Well, they're asked whether
With the task.
they'll consider whether, so they could say no. But to say that they can't think, you don't want them to think about it, seems like.
You are requiring them to think about it, okay? And by requiring them to think about it, it is implied that there is a health issue. And I would argue that. And nobody is arguing the fact that wind turbines emit infrasound. Everybody agrees to that. Just like big fans emit infrasound, just like the ocean emits infrasound. And we're not asking any regulatory body to regulate the ocean or.
The difference is that in those other scenarios, you are there by choice for whatever amount of time you decide to be there. It's not 24/7. And you have no control over it. One is voluntary, one is not.
Either wind blows 100% of the time or it's intermittent. Because
No, what I'm saying,
turbines aren't.
when you're talking about the ocean, you can go to the ocean, you can leave the ocean, you can be in a ship or on a boat or whatever, you can choose not. It's within your own decision-making, but not when it comes to,
If it was if
Turbines.
infrasound was a health issue, nobody would be living near the ocean.
It may depend on what type of infrasound it is. I mean, I think obviously people live by the ocean, whether or not there's cases where infrasound could affect.
You know, this is the.
That's what the study, the PSB should look into.
And in rulemaking, if somebody wants to bring that to the table, they can. I just don't feel comfortable as the state saying, I don't acknowledge, and I don't think science acknowledges. In fact, I'm convinced of it, that the science doesn't acknowledge that there is a health correlation to infrasound. There is an annoyance correlation to some people.
I go back to Mary's point. If we took 1 and 2 out, that does not restrict the board from looking at those items. You know, it's like when the storm docket was done, and we're gonna do rules on stormwater runoff. Everything that had to do with stormwater runoff was on the table, and people brought a myriad of issues.
I would agree. If you want to take out all the list of requirements, I'm happy with that.
I mean, if we direct them to do rulemaking on sound,
Right.
in all aspects of sound, and people that come in can bring the issues to the table. And if people have a problem with infrasound,
Then they bring
they're
it.
gonna bring it to the table and say, look at this, you have to seriously consider this as part of the rulemaking. Because if we get prescriptive too, we may be restricting people with what they're gonna bring. So I think
I'm
the
good with
broader
that.
the better.
Okay? I'm good with that. You good with that?
I'll go with that.
Okay. All right, so we're basically just telling them to do rulemaking
Sound
without the
levels.
specific,
But after.
so everything up to line 14, I think, on page 26,
Right.
is that right?
Cut out as used in this section and then that whole thing.
Wait a second. It's a little more, yeah. We got it.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you want to go through section by section and try to figure that out now, but I think there's some things you would need to keep.
You mean like the standards apply to all wind generation facilities and keep the methodology for determining sound levels and measurement locations, so keep that.
And then
So
add,
keep that, and so basically keep 2.
I don't think,
You're talking about 2 on page 26?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Getting rid of section 1?
You're basically getting rid of
Well,
section
everything that's
1,
A.
yeah. No, you are basically getting rid of section 1, section 2.
You're talking about section 1 audible sound, section 2.
Yes, yes.
Right.
And then,
So we leave A,
no,
line 11 to 15, on page 25.
Yeah, we do.
no.
We're not getting rid of it.
I thought that was setting up the rules. We need it.
What one are you looking at?
Page 25, lines 11 to 13.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely, yeah, right, yeah.
You were saying,
I meant everything after that.
thank you, that's what I was trying to clarify.
Everything after that, up to
We need,
2.
right,
yeah, we need those two.
and then getting rid of C through E, but keeping F.
Right.
What, C2, what are you talking about? C2, E1?
Up to line, through line 5 on page 26.
We're getting rid of.
We're getting rid of that?
You're getting rid
Up
of, yes.
through line 5.
So just keeping this section here.
You're keeping section 14A.
And you're keeping the piece that says no one can get a CPG until they make they complete their docket on sound.
Okay, so I have a.
Well, then we have a, go ahead, Mike, I'm
I have
sorry.
a problem with the instantaneous.
That's going.
Oh, it's gone.
We have to figure, if you wanna keep this, then you have to figure out
What the link is.
what the link is, 'cause you
Yeah.
can't say satisfy the requirements of
Right.
subdivision 1 if it's gone.
Right. So the rules adopted pursuant to this section shall provide for A, B, and C.
Right.
We're keeping lines on page 26,
Oh,
we're
I
keeping
see.
lines 6 through,
Everything is there.
all right, so then
Yeah, but we have to
do
be,
some wordsmithing.
yeah, yeah, but we have to figure out from line 6, there needs to be a different linkage to include that language.
Sound levels.
Aaron's on his way up.
Oh, thank you. We'll figure out the language. Is this candid camera?
Are you candid? This is recording history.
Smile. Candid, yeah.
Remember that
6 o'clock noon.
Here,
Alan.
there,
Alan
dramatic.
Farquhar.
Correct.
He was my neighbor, I grew up with his son here. Still my good
I thought
friend.
you picked up the camera.
I grew up with the candid camera people.
you did.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's 2.
I grew up watching it on TV.
That's what you got here, right?
And I wore PF flags.
Remember that?
Oh, you know what?
Pictures.
That 2.
All right, so,
Try this A also. So,
all right, we're getting somewhere.
so,
What was the other?
so,
Oh, the,
I don't know where 1 is.
well, I got a question about the,
what page? What page?
27,
All right, page 27, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
about the Public Service Board and certificates. We have to maintain
I'm
copies.
keeping that.
Which line?
Warren's got a issue.
Well, I got a question. We heard from the Public Service Board earlier that certain parts of the bill just couldn't fly. What is the Public Service Board's take on what we have here in Section F? Is that something?
In
that-
section F,
Not issuing, well, anything that's issued, it's retroactive
anything that's issued is retroactive
To April
to
15th.
the
to April
standards.
15th.
Yeah. How's that?
Last week.
Any application that's submitted,
Yeah.
April 15th onward.
Any application of a project, of a wind project, that is submitted after April 15th of 2016,
Which just passed.
which just passed, will be subject to the new standards that the Public Service Board is going to take, and they have asked for that process that they have until January of 2018 to provide those standards. And we initially said September 15th, 17th, but I would entertain the Public Service Board's request.
So that's their request to change.
What's that?
Which is the 2018.
2018. I mean, yes, 1/20, January 2018.
So that would change your,
No, it wouldn't change the April 15th date at all.
with the September 15th.
Yes, it
Yeah,
would
we're
change,
extending,
we would choose
January
to.
of 2018.
So Aaron, guess what we've done while you're away?
Good, great.
Do you want to guess?
So we're on page 25.
So I'm on call whenever the Senate gets to the bills this committee passed that they're now considering
Okay.
today.
Forest bills?
The forester?
Conservation easements and changes to planning that you passed last year.
A year ago.
You are on page 25.
We're on page 25, and the committee has made a group decision to strike from line, starting on line 14,
About 13, as used in this section.
okay, 13, all the way, all the way till line, well, end of line 5, except knowing that line 6 and 7 is not the appropriate linkage for what comes after that at this point.
Meaning like these rules may consider, you want to consider.
Well,
it.
may satisfy the requirements of subdivision 1 of this subset.
Like this.
I know, I'm suggesting an alternative.
Oh, okay.
You are are you wanting to say, so if you, what you would have is the first sentence on page 25, 11 through 13 lines, 11 through 13, and then you could say, in developing these rules, the board shall consider, is that, I guess my
Yes.
question is whether you want the board to consider all of these.
Yes, I think, so far, yes.
Oh,
Yes.
Do we want to consider, do we want to satisfy?
Consider.
Well, let's just,
Satisfy now.
But it's A or B or C, it's not satisfied, all of those.
Oh, okay.
Right, it's saying or.
Okay? And then Warren was, what was your question on that?
If it works with the Public Service Board to look at these CPGs retroactively.
So, well, let's see, so, here's not going to sound.
did you agree on any other changes? Are you?
No, that's as far as we got.
What are we doing with C and D and E on page 26 and 27?
I thought, since that related to 1 and 2 on the first page, we were taking
Right.
it out,
I think
but.
they're gone.
Okay, they're gone. Okay.
C, D, and E would be gone.
Yeah, and then F stays. F stays, that's right, that's the important part.
It's shorter all the time.
Okay? Okay. Were you here when we finally decided on the 500 feet over the?
Or 10 times?
Yeah,
Yes.
you got that? Okay,
Yes, I've been working on revising the draft
okay,
while you were on the floor.
Okay.
I haven't finished.
okay.
I have that in there.
So now we are struggling with appeals. And we are struggling with less than really who